Fighters Only Television. We're here in Stockholm, Sweden. A couple of days out from UFC on Field TV 9. And sitting next to me is Mr. Tom Kong Watson, who isn't fighting on the card, but will be sitting ringside to watch the fights. And to make himself useful, Friday he'll be doing a Q&A for the Fight Club fans, which I think you might be able to catch on YouTube, on the UFC YouTube. And if not, I guess you'll have to go and join Fight Club, and maybe you can go and attend one day yourself. Tom, thanks for joining us. Enjoying yourself in Sweden so far?
Yeah, I've been to a lot of Europe, but obviously I've never been to Sweden, so pretty excited. I've managed to just go out and eat. I haven't been out to see the town yet, so hopefully the weekend and after the fights I'll see what the Swedish women are all about.
I think you'd be pretty excited when you get your restaurant bill and calculate what that actually is in English money. That's going to be really exciting.
No, I already calculated that. I just got hit for about 50 quid in the last restaurant. So.
And got like a sandwich and a plate of crisps.
Yeah, and a bottle of wine, but no, it's all good.
Was the bottle of wine actually full strength? Because something we've noticed is they seem to be scared of high strength alcohol here. Like you can only buy sort of 2% beer, and you've got to go to a special government shop to buy a proper drink or something.
I think the rest of the world just doesn't drink like English drink to, just get drunk, but the rest of the world's social and they don't really care too much. So I'm used to the States. The States is like 2-3% beers too. So
is that right?
Yeah, they're all Bud Lights. Stella's like a strong drink out there, whereas in England it's just a normal one.
Oh, you're scaring me. Let's move on to the fight game. So your last outing, Stanislav Nedkov, you really put a beating on him. And people are expecting that to be at least a close fight, whichever way it went. Obviously, he's a strong wrestler and stuff. You entirely negated his game. And what was strange was you did it mostly through clinch work. Why was clinch the approach?
Well, I mean, I didn't specifically train the clinch or think of the clinch, but the fight started and I wanted to get in his face from the first bell because I'd seen his fights and he bullies people around, he pushes them back, and I'd seen him when he knocked Lewis Kane out was basically had him on the back foot. When he dropped Thiago Silva, had him on the back foot. So I just wanted to get in his face, and he basically didn't move back. And then when I clinched him, he just tried to block the knees. And I thought, well, if he's not going to do anything other than block, I'll just stay here. So it wasn't a game plan or anything else other than he didn't really react very well to what happened in the first couple of seconds, and then that's where I thought, all right, this is quite good here.
When someone starts blocking knees from the clinch with the forearm, you've got to think you've probably not done too much clinch.
Yeah, I was just surprised wrestling-wise. I thought he would try and body lock me from a clinch, and he's a Greco guy, but just didn't really offer any offense other than being explosive and exploding with punches out of the clinch, which he was good at, but nothing else. I didn't really rate.
There was a period in that fight. I think at the end of the first, you looked like you were almost knocked out, and the fight was over. You came back, hung on, made it into the second. How close to being finished were you?
Well, the first round, so I had people come up to me after the fight and said, "Oh, you got taken down in the first round." I thought, I don't think I got taken down. I got hit with the right hand, and then I kind of fell down. But I was with it on the, I was conscious on the floor. But I do remember thinking, this doesn't look good to the referee. So I got to move, and then I tried to move, and then when I would move, he wouldn't hit me. But then you're not really doing anything. So I just tried to do a bit of both, and luckily it was at the end of the round. I mean, watched the fight back, and I think if it had happened a minute earlier, maybe I'd have been in a bit more trouble,
Yeah. And in those sort of situations, do you find, like, are you actually conscious of the referee? Like, I would think you'd be kind of conscious of your work, and like, if he's in like top half guard or something, your hands and his hands and stuff. But if the referee's standing there watching closely, do you find yourself kind of thinking more about what the referee's seeing rather than what your opponent's doing?
Well, I've never been conscious of the referee before ever. I've never noticed the referee in a fight, really. But that's the first fight where I remember being on the ground at the end of the first round thinking, you better move here because the referee could stop this. You're just getting battered in the head. So I've started trying to move because of the referee, not of anybody else, just thinking, this might get stopped, and then luckily the bell's gone.
And then it went after that. It was pretty much cruise control, I think. There was a couple of squeaky moments, but overall it was you in the driving seat.
I think I got hit with a bigger shot in the second round than the first round when I watched it back. Yeah, but lucky it was all good in the end.
Did he feel strong?
Well, he didn't feel strong. I expected him to be really strong in the clinch, a really strong wrestler, but he didn't feel very strong at all like that. But punches and being explosive and covering distance, he did shock me a little bit with that.
Because he looked strong, kind of big. And where do you reckon his testosterone levels were?
Well, they were massively over the limit, weren't they? I mean, come on, it's not rocket science,
Which leads us neatly into talking about testosterone and TRT. This is something you were quite vocal about afterwards. I think you specifically called out TRT users. It's like a one-man crusade against testosterone and steroid abuse.
Well, I mean, it depends how many other people are on it. You know, if I say 60, 70, maybe 80% are on something, the other 20%, how many of them are going to speak up? So I don't know if it's a one-man crusade, but...
So you're going with a conservative estimate there?
Well, possibly not. I don't know, it depends how you look at it.
But the whole TRT thing really seems to aggravate you.
Yeah, I'm talking just drugs in general, I think. Yeah. You know, if I just talk TRT, I mean, there's only about 5-6 guys on it, and those guys really, you probably got to have more respect for them, because at least they've, you know, I've heard Chael Sonnen say before, well, look, I'm not doing anything illegal, it's allowed in the system, so, you know, but...
There's a difference between illegal and sporting.
So are you justifying that if they take it illegally and pass the test is better than if they do TRT and do it legally?
No, I think... Not that anyone cares what I think, but I think that TRT... If you went out into the general population at large, TRT, there's probably like, you know, a very small percentage of adult males need it, whereas if you look at MMA at the moment, proportionally, the percentage of guys that are using it just looks ridiculous.
Well, yeah, but the only difference I'll say with that is in England you don't see the way, like in the States, if you drive to Vegas for instance, you'll see the billboards on the way in, and there'll be billboards advertising TRT. You know, $40, $50 come in and you can get a testosterone prescription, and advertising, you know, you've got the medical system's just a lot different out there, so I think that's why, whereas in England it's...
So they'll find a way to give it you?
Yeah. I think so.
So another thing you discussed after the fight was you called out Vanderlei Silva, and understandable. What was your reasons first of all?
Well, I mean, he fought in Japan, and obviously watching that fight, I'm good friends with Brian Stan, and you know, I thought Brian Stan would win, and he knocked Brian Stan out, and I mean, you see one of your friends get knocked out, you know, that's when I was like, all right, well let's see if you can knock me out, you know, that was my attitude, and it's not necessarily how I would like to have called him out, but listen, if I'd said, oh, Vanderlei, it'd be an honour to fight you, no one wants to listen to that. You know, Vanderlei, listen, you get knocked out, do you want to fight? You know, I knew that. I don't think the UFC really wanted to do it. I don't know if that many fans would be interested in it. So I thought the best way to get the fight is to upset Vanderlei. So that was my strategy. Yeah.
I think, I don't know if you look online or not, but some of the reaction was like, there's a lot of guys calling Vanderlei out because you think he's a huge name, but he's kind of past his best. Like it's an easy big name win. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, he just knocked out a guy who's top 10 in my division, who knocks everybody else out. So he beat him at his own style. But for me, it's just a good fight. You know, what's a better fight for me? Most fans would obviously know it's a better fight for me to have someone that's going to come out and bang and stand up than someone who's going to come out and just try and take me down and you know, and have a grappling match. So.
Which is why you then moved on to Chris Camozzi, who is riding a 4-fight win streak, and you called him out. What was the result of that?
Well, I just thought that'd be a good fight, and somebody else tweeted about it actually. I think MMA Weekly or Sherdog. I think Sherdog actually listed it as a fight they'd want to see after he won his fight. So then people started tweeting about it, and Camozzi said, "Yeah, I'm down. You know, seen how Tom fights, I'm down." But I mean, he's taking a fight in May now, late notice. So you know, he'll continue, you know, on his own path.
So overall, you don't seem like you're interested in, and it's, you know, obviously not that you can go to the UFC and pad your record, but some guys will try and build up a win streak with what they would perceive as easier fights, because if they can go 3-0, 4-0, it's a good kind of marketing tool or whatever, you know. But you seem like you want to kind of dive in against tough opponents, really. Fair to say?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm 30 years old, and although I've been fighting MMA for 7 years, I fought in cage rage almost straight away. So at the time, that was the biggest show in Europe. So I've been on the bigger shows, you know, and since that time, and I don't really want to fight forever. So I want to fight the best guys now while I think I'm in my prime, and you know, I just don't see the point. You know, don't go to the UFC unless you're ready to fight. You should be ready to fight anybody. You know, obviously the main event has not happened this week, and you know, I think if that had been a lot of other divisions in the UFC. A lot of other guys would have stepped up or put themselves forward, and I just think at 205 there's not that deep a division, you know.
Yeah. Does 205 interest you at all? Or are you strictly middleweight?
Not really. I mean, I'd fight if I had to, but I mean, I walk around about just over that. So middleweight, I've always fought there. It doesn't it doesn't really, you know, that's where I'd like to fight.
So what's interesting, right? Like, have you had any feedback from the UFC about who might be next, or?
Not really, no, because I had an elbow problem that they had to clear from the last fight, so they can't really match me until they know. It looks like that's going to be the end of May, pretty much. You know, I had X-rays and scans, and so I would think, you know, within the next month or so, I would get a matchup, you know, announced and confirmed. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know what the show is in Europe, so I think most of the shows coming up are in the States. So to me, that looks most likely where it's going to be.
So bringing us back to Europe and back to now, this weekend, Gustafsson is out of the main event with a cut, and Ilir Latifi is coming to take the spot against Mousasi. Any thoughts about the fight and that kind of whole situation?
I mean, you know, you can say a lot of things about it, but I think it's pretty good that they found a guy around that was training with Gustafsson. And I mean, look, what's the other option? They have no main event. You lose one big fight. I mean, at least now you still get to see Mousasi fight, so it's the best possible scenario, really.
I mean, it must be thrilling for Latifi, who's coming in, you know, headlining in your UFC debut, headlining, you walk out into that arena like it's a fairy tale, I guess, but also probably pretty unimaginable pressure.
Yeah, I just think it depends what type of fighter you are. I mean, yeah, if that's what you like pressure. I like bigger crowds, I like bigger stages. I think a lot of fighters are like that, but I mean, I don't know anything about him, so I don't know if has he fought. Has he even headlined any other shows? I don't know. So there's a lot of questions. Yeah, that I mean, Mousasi might not have fought in the UFC, but that's a top guy in the world. You know, I think that's a top 5 guy in the UFC at that division. That I think is a problem for anybody. You know.
Dana was kicking off, I think, yesterday about the commission's decision to refuse him a license to fight because of the cut. You know, said it didn't look that bad, it had healed up after it had stitched. But, you know, if you get hit on a cut like that that's kind of so fresh, I think the potential for the first round stoppage is probably is pretty high.
Yeah, but I mean, look, when you get a cut in a fight, you didn't have a cut before it, so you could get hit anyway in a fight, split your eye open, and you know, I've got plenty of scars from fights, and if I get hit in those areas, they're going to split open more than somewhere I don't have it. So, what are you going to do then? You know, they're going to bring the cut man in, and you're going to get on with it. So, I can understand the frustration.
Let's wrap up with every time I stand near you, I feel underdressed. Every time you walk into the room, I think, here's a snappy dresser. You know, sometimes you can be modest of speech, but I find that your dress sense is like quite flamboyant almost. Or, you know, you're obviously into your clothes. Is that fair to say?
I would say I'm somewhat of extrovert dresser, but I try to tame it down. So I'll see things that are outrageous and think, no, you can't, because I've done it over the years where I've bought things and I don't wear them. But I've got things that other people, you know, like right now, like trousers, pants. I like, you know, I've got green ones, red ones. I don't know. I just get bored, I think. Yeah.
We saw the green ones yesterday, and I thought you carried it off very, very well. The whole, you know,
if it's possible, you know, Cub Swanson said I look like an elf, so I guess that's carrying it off well.
He's stylish kind of an elf, but look or label?
No, I'm not really interested in a label, but I mean, if something's nice, it's nice. You know, if the label's there, you know, I've seen plenty of things that are massive price and still want them, but there's most of the things I would say aren't really label.
Yeah. Okay. And so, last question: you're doing the Q&A for fans tomorrow. Are we likely to hear you call anybody out?
Again, it comes down to I'm pretty. I don't really know what I'm going to do half the time, so it depends what someone asks. We'll see where it goes.
Nice. Tom Watson, thank you very much for the time.